A few years ago, a man in Alberta was a victim of a swatting. A swatting is when somebody calls 911 and makes a false report to try to get the cops to come out to your house with their guns out and blazing. Now, we would hope that if this happened to you, as soon as the police got to your house and they realized it was a hoax, they would leave and they would go after the person who made the false 911 call. But that's not what happened in this case. The victim's house was searched, he was detained for several hours, and he had to spend tens of thousands of dollars of his own money to clear his name. Now, I promised I wouldn't use this person's name because he's afraid of provoking retaliatory action from the police. I interviewed him to find out exactly what happened.
So what happened is one day I'm home like literally 20 minutes early from work, like not very early, right? And me and my kid were in the backyard just scratching up the barbecue. And my wife comes out and says, "Hey, there's cops at the door." So I walk out the back gate, and there's a C8 rifle pointed right at my chest. And I'm looking around, and there's like 6 more of them, shotguns and rifles, all pointed right at me. And they asked me by name, so I told them who I was. And right away, they just came, 2 of them came and grabbed me and marched me out into the garage. And they told me that they're going to go in my house. I told them right off the bat, no, I'm not giving consent. And, well, it's exigent circumstances. We got to make sure everybody's safe. So they wouldn't even explain to me why they were there.
Oh, did you ask?
I did ask. I asked a couple times why they were there, and eventually it came out that, like, after they'd already started searching the house, that somebody reported that I was shooting a gun in my backyard. So very obviously I wasn't. So, yeah, they tore through the house. They opened up my gun cabinet, and they found a DeVore rifle in there and a loaded magazine. Wasn't loaded in the rifle, but the magazine was in the cabinet, right? So they said, I can't do that because the rifle's restricted. So I tried to show them the registration certificate. Eventually I did, but they still said it was restricted.
Just to clarify, the magazine was charged, but it was not in the rifle, or was it in the rifle?
Correct. Actually, the magazine was on top of the fridge, so there was ammunition in the cabinet in a box.
Okay, but was it in the rifle?
No, there was a charged magazine on top of the fridge.
I see.
There was a 20-pack of ammo in the cabinet with the rifle.
Like one of those stack-on cabinets, or a safe, or something else?
No, it's a home-built cabinet. It's very sturdy. They couldn't open it. My wife went and got them the keys. So that, and I have a 12-gauge with a side saddle. I had empty hulls in the side saddle. That was just for practice. So they took those 2, and they charged me with careless storage. Based on those 2, there are other guns in the cabinet as well. And this magazine that they found on the fridge, it was an LAR-15 pistol mag. It had 7 rounds in it, and they found another one of those. So they charged me with 2 counts of prohibited devices. What I thought was kind of suspect was on the car ride to the cop shop, I needed to be clear. Like, I didn't understand. Okay, so what is prohibited here? And they said these magazines. And I said, well, I got 2 more at home. And they just said, shh, I didn't hear that. So, yeah, it took about 4 hours. They tore my house upside down. They said they were looking for a person in distress. They looked in the sock drawers. They looked everywhere.
A person in distress, what does that mean?
Well, they said they had a 911 call that I was shooting a handgun in the backyard. So they decided to search my house to make sure everybody was safe. You know, me, my wife, and my kid were all right there with them. Anyway, they were looking in my sock drawer for a person in distress. I looked everywhere, tore it right upside down. They asked to search my car. I wouldn't let them. They asked to search the garage. I wouldn't let them. Like, they went through my basement. They had my wife, like, they told my wife she had to open my cabinet for me, so she went and got my keys. And they tried all the keys till they finally got it open. They looked at all the bedrooms. They looked under the beds. They looked in all the closets. They looked in all the drawers. Obviously, they looked in the kitchen. They looked in the cabinets because the magazine was in a cabinet above the fridge, the cupboards. So they basically tore it limb from limb. It took about 4 hours for them to search. So, yeah, like somebody's going to hide in my upper kitchen cabinet. Yeah, so that was that day. That was how the arrest went down. I never did get an explanation. After a while, some disclosures started coming out, but not very much. They decided to prosecute for those 2 counts of careless storage and the 2 counts of prohibited devices. And like right off the bat, my lawyer said, well, this is ridiculous. None of these things are even illegal. So it went on almost 8 months before I got my first offer for a deal. And that offer was the prosecutor will drop all the charges or withdraw all the charges in exchange for all your firearms, all your ammunition, and a lifetime prohibition. Obviously, I said no. As time went on, they got it a little bit sweeter, a 5-year prohibition. And then, well, okay, we'll keep the guns that we confiscated. And the ones, oh, yeah, that's another thing. I had the time the registry was active, right?
Yeah.
I had 3 more guns registered in my name. And they didn't bother going to get those. My nephew had them. He was borrowing them. So I'm so damn dangerous, but they don't need to really worry about those other 3 guns, I guess.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, isn't that strange? So then the day before trial, they dropped the 2 prohibited charges, the 2 magazine ones, like literally 12 hours before my trial started. They dropped those 2. And then the morning of the trial, the final offer was they get to keep 1 gun. I get to pick which gun they keep, no prohibition, and they'll drop the charges. So, of course, at that point we said, thanks, but...
Yeah, it almost sounds like they're just taking it down bit by bit. There's no principle behind it. It's just...
Well, the speculation was that the prosecutor never actually looked at the case at all. She just saw the pictures of these scary guns, my Tavor, and I had an XCR, and, I had a bunch of military-style guns. Overall, they took about 12 guns, and they took all my optics and stuff. So, yeah, the trial started. We decided that, we're going to just go it on the basis of a charter challenge.
And really?
Right at this, yeah.
What was the charter challenge?
The charter challenge would have been the completely illegal search, right? And pretty much arbitrary charges. I mean, they were malicious charges. So rather than try and defend, like, I didn't do it, these aren't mine, I didn't do anything wrong, it was more like, hey, you guys just came to my house and decided to, ruin things. I think, like, my lawyer's theory is that they had way overstepped their bounds, and they did it right off the bat. And more in the search part, and basically their plan to justify all of this was to, we better charge him with something. So everybody passed the buck. They said they phoned NWest, that's the RCMP gang weapons lab, and it was them that told them that the magazines were prohibited. I gave them that copy from the RCMP, the copy of the explanation of the mag limits.
Yeah. Didn't
care. Prosecutor never looked at it. So yeah, the trial started, and of course the prosecutor had to withdraw all the charges. So I've got reams and reams and reams of paper in detail, but that was the abridged version of it. One of the reasons it was so expensive is because we had no idea what brought them to our house. And we had to do our research and find out, okay, what the hell, am I in trouble here? So I had to hire a private investigator who abruptly called the cops and told them what he was doing. Rookie mistake, never hire a private investigator from in town. So I hired another one, and another one from way out of town. And what I learned is that the cops never knocked on anybody's door. They didn't ask my neighbors whether or not they had heard gunfire ever. Like, they never asked nobody, nothing. So, yeah, the day of the trial, the actual day of the trial, I finally got to read a transcript of this 911 call. And it was somebody I know who was just out to get me.
Oh, you know him?
Yeah, actually it was my stepmom. And she lit it up, like she just hammed it up like she was trying to get me executed by these guys or something. But I mean, it was all, like, there was nothing in there that made any sense at all. So I don't know, I guess they had to take her seriously, but why they had to take it so far, it's a mystery to me.
You mean she described to them a situation of a seemingly violent person in your backyard or something like that?
Oh yeah, like I've threatened to kill my family, and I've threatened to kill them more than once, and I've got guns that came from overseas. I went overseas and bought guns and brought them back, like machine guns and stuff. And like, really? Are you kidding? Like, they would actually believe this kind of stuff? So yeah, it was a pretty hard year.
Were there any consequences for your stepmom?
No, none whatsoever. She was subpoenaed for trial, but she didn't come.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah. There should have been consequences. I'm pretty sure when you're subpoenaed, you gotta go, right?
Yeah.
No, she didn't. No consequences. I never had another word with her or my dad since, because this whole time, I mean, nearly a year, they both knew. But that whole time, my wife and I are stressing out, wondering, what the hell happened? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, obviously they didn't tell you.
No, they didn't tell me. I found out at the trial. I mean, my opinion is it was purely malicious. I mean, these guys, why the prosecutor continued, probably because she never looked at the case until the last minute. Probably just didn't give it down. And the cops, I think they overstepped their bounds and decided, well, we got to go for it. We got to do something. And then at the end of it, I contacted probably 25 lawyers in Alberta, and not one of them wanted to start a private prosecution. They just thought, you know what? You don't tangle with the cops. You're free. Drop it.
Oh, you wanted to prosecute the cops?
Oh yeah, I sure did.
In a criminal manner, not just civil?
Criminal. I wanted to start a private criminal prosecution. They broke the law in so many ways. When I walked out of my backyard into my front, I'm out there with a 2-year-old. 9 times out of 10, I'm packing that 2-year-old right in front of my chest. This time, because it was cops, I told them, yeah, just wait here. But, you know, I'm not real happy about having 6 CH pointed at me, not in the least. I'm not happy about the illegal search. I'm not happy about, you know, how they just dragged this out. Why didn't somebody just have a look? You know, why didn't they just look at my registration certificates and see, oh, yeah, these are non-restricted firearms? You know, why did I even have to get arrested? It was ridiculous. They tossed me in the nutty bin for 24 hours that night without a mental health warrant, another breach of my charter rights.
Oh, like if they picked up a legitimate crazy person, they would put him in this room for 24 hours and they put you in there.
Well, they can get a mental health warrant, right, for that. In Alberta, I think it's called a warrant 10 or something, mental health warrant. What they did is after they processed me at their detachment, rather than send me home, they sent me to the emergency room in the nutty bin, and they made me wait there naked until I saw the ER doctor. Well, what is the ER doctor going to do? Like, is he going to drop somebody who's bleeding to come and see me? No. They left me in there for like 18 hours until the ER doctor finally had a minute to come and see me. And he was pissed. He was apologetic. And, you know, like he thought it was just ridiculous that they put me in there. That's why I wanted to get this private prosecution going.
Wow. So you mean you're sitting in an exam room?
No, I was locked up. I'm locked up in a rubber room.
Oh, with no clothes and nothing?
Yeah, locked up in a rubber room in my underwear. Still haven't spoken to a lawyer, haven't phoned anybody, haven't spoken to anybody, haven't got an explanation for anything. Sober as a judge. You know, I got to go to work the next day, wondering where my wife is. They took my wife and my son to that's a woman's shelter. Of course, anytime somebody goes to a woman's shelter, now Child and Family Services are involved. So now they're knocking on my door every 5 minutes, wanting to check where does he sleep, how much do you drink, how much drugs do you do, all the time. So, you know, like my neighbors are watching this, and, you know, the cops, they dragged all my guns out of the house in front of every gangster in the whole bloody neighborhood. I thought for sure I was going to get robbed. You know, they just marched them out for everybody to see in YouTube video, and, you know, like, fortunately I didn't notice any of it on YouTube, but there's cameras everywhere.
You mean like the neighbors were taking, like, cell phone video and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. When you got 6 cop cars and a whole bunch of cops running around your house with rifles, I mean, the whole neighborhood comes out to see the show, right?
Right. What kind of a neighborhood are you in?
Nice little residential rural neighborhood. Nice neighbors. I know everybody. I guess that's why I didn't get my pictures on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, every gangster in the whole city knows what guns I own now, or did own. Yeah, unreal.
Were you under any bail conditions?
No, none whatsoever. They didn't even take my PAL. But I did try to buy a gun, and I was flagged. I couldn't buy one.
So how much did this cost you in dollars?
The lawyer's fees were $5,000, but start to finish, by the end of the year, I was up to almost $23,000. I actually had the numbers. I had all the arithmetic worked out. I might be able to dig it out.
Yeah. What is that in lost income?
Yeah, there was lost income. There's lawyer's fees. There's 2 sets of private investigators. There's lots and lots of lost work. There's damage to my property, my guns. There's 1 scope that I still haven't got repaired yet. I don't know what it's going to cost. I got stuff listed out. I even went so far as to kind of keep tally on, okay, what did it cost me to park this day that I went to see the lawyer? And, you know, what did this cab fare on the way to court cost? I tallied all of that stuff up. So, yeah, it was pretty expensive for nothing. One of my biggest problems, I was so alone because absolutely nobody believed me. Like, who would believe a story like that? So I was pretty much completely on my own. Everybody thought I was full of beans. I wonder how many more people this has happened to.
He also told me that his wife is very disturbed by what happened. He said, quote, "She was new to the country at the time. She couldn't speak English and was afraid of the police for the same reasons people fear police in her home country. Imagine having your husband and son in the crosshairs of a police force you know nothing about." Now, he mentioned that he was charged with possession of a prohibited device for having 2 LAR-15 magazines. But you don't have to be a lawyer to know that that's wrong, because the RCMP has put out a letter specifically saying that the LAR-15 magazine is completely legal and unregulated. Also, if you read the safe storage regulations carefully, you'll see that his way of storing the rifle in a cabinet next to the ammunition was completely legal because the rifle was not loaded and the cabinet was difficult to break into.